Now we're going to look at the formal definition of division of whole numbers. So for any whole numbers, we're just going to call them a and b, and we want to make sure that b is not 0. A divided by b is equal to c. If and only if, we're going to go backwards here, c times b is equal to a, or b times c. Anyway, we're going backwards and we're defining division in terms of multiplication actually. So a divided by b is c if and only if c times b is equal to a. The vocabulary you need to know for these: a, the thing that is getting divided up, that is called the dividend. You do need to know that word, dividend. That's the thing that's being divided up. The number doing the actual dividing, just like a supervisor does the supervising, the divisor is the thing that is literally doing the dividing. So b, the thing that's being divided into the dividend, that's your divisor. And then the answer you get is called the quotient, and you definitely need to know that when you divide two numbers, you get a quotient. So dividend, divisor. Now, we don't use this like this little division symbol with the dots above and below the little minus sign there. We don't use that for very long. Like it gets to a point where we really start writing these as fractions. So a divided by b can be written more like a fraction, a over b, where a is your numerator, b is the denominator. So a divided by b. Or we're going to do long division in this section, so b divided into a. This is how you would set up long division. Now, a lot of times students have a hard time going from this fraction notation into long division. They don't know which one to put inside and which one goes outside. So I had a friend of mine that used to teach middle school, and she said the way she taught it was, well, A is the cowboy and B is the horse. So the cowboy's riding on top of the horse, right? He rides all day long on top of his horse. At the end of the night, the cowboy gets to go inside. The horse has to stay outside. So the cowboy goes in the house, the horse has to stay outside. So if you can remember the cowboy's on the horse, that tells you which one to put underneath the division symbol. So the cowboy would be the dividend and the horse would be the divisor. So then the division algorithm explains remainders and what to do with remainders. So it says and this is kind of a doozy of a definition, so I'm going to try to translate it to English. It says for any whole numbers a and b, where b is not 0, we have to make sure that this b number, the divisor, is not 0. There exist unique whole numbers q and r, and they're named that for quotient and remainder, so that a is equal to b times the quotient plus the remainder, where the remainder is always smaller than b and greater than or equal to 0. Now, just to read that, that's a pretty mathy definition. So let me break it down for you and explain to you what the heck the division algorithm is trying to say. It's basically going to help us understand why long division works the way long division works. So for any two whole numbers a and b, b is not 0. We can always find two whole numbers q and r that make this equation true, where r has to be, the remainder has to be either equal to 0 or greater than 0, but the remainder should always be less than b. And I will explain why the remainder has to be less than b. So let's just go back and do a long division problem. 32 divided by 6. So 32 is the dividend, 6 is the divisor, and so 32 is the cowboy, 6 is the horse. So when you get ready to do long division, you would write it like this, where the cowboy goes inside the house and the horse has to stay outside. So again, this guy is your divisor. This guy is the dividend. And let's see what happens when we divide. So we can't divide 6 into 3, but we can divide 6 into 30. 6 goes into 30 5 times. And the way you do long division is you go, okay, 5 times 6, you multiply. You divide, then you multiply. 5 times 6 is 30. And you subtract, and we get 2. And normally if you had more digits, you would bring them down. But we're starting off with a nice simple whole number example. So 6 cannot divide into 2. So do you see how 2 is smaller than the dividend? That's what they mean by this, less than b. When this remainder is smaller than 6, you know you're done. So this is your remainder. And 5 would be considered the quotient. And usually what we'll do is we'll say like R2. This is back when life was good and you probably still liked math. This is when you wrote 32 divided by 6 is 5R2. So we use that kind of notation. And that's all we're going to do here with whole numbers. So they give us this crazy equation. They say A equals B times Q plus R. This is how you check to see if your answer is correct. So let's fill in the numbers. So what we're saying is 32 is B, 6, times your quotient, 5, plus the remainder, which was 2. 6 times 5 plus this remainder better equal 32 or you didn't do it right. So basically this is just a way to check your answer. Did you get it right? So this would be 32 equals 30 plus 2. Yeah, we got it right. Right, 32 is equal to 32. So we did it correctly. 6 times 5 plus 2 more is your 32. So that's all this is. I don't want you to be scared about the division algorithm or worry too much about it in terms of like that you have to memorize it or anything like that. It's really just a fancy mathematical way to say the remainder should be smaller than the divisor. And if you multiply the divisor and the quotient and then add the remainder, you should get this dividend. And that's how you'll know if you did the problem correctly.